Hello everyone. It's been a while since I recorded one of these videos, but I'm back, this time with Queen. Finally found another leader that's pretty much worth talking about. So on screen right now is what I'm playing for OP10. I talked about this leader a lot in a previous video, so I'm not going to talk about the different tech choices here. Today I'm mainly going to go over what we're going to play in EB02, OP11, and just some of the matchups, matchup guides for the leader in general. If you want to see more about this list, there's a video on screen right now. Link in the description. It'll be here, somewhere. Yeah, but yeah, I'll show you guys the EB list, and I'll kind of I'll explain the general idea behind it. So what are the major changes? You can see Braham is gone, although that this list is mainly targeted at the Great Luffy deck. So you could see the big changes are, I think we cut down on one Yamato to play an extra copy of Mihawk. Being able to remove Sanji and Pudding is just so important for this deck, especially because you cannot really get Datsu or Nami on curve if they have the stage. Another key thing that I'm adding is Sables. This is an STO3 card. It's a very old card that we've tested playing in OP10 just as a answer to Purple Luffy, which is horrible matchup. But Green-Purple is okay. Do I recommend playing this leader in EB02? Probably not, to be completely honest with you. I think this leader gets a lot of support in OP11, but it's still okay in EB. I think it's definitely still playable. I playing an extra X streak, just as a 6k blocker in the mid game. You usually want to go first against Green-Purple. You don't swing into them until they play their first Sanji Pudding. After that, you can't really start the deck. And the reason is, if you swing into them, you give them more chance to see Sanji Pudding, right? Which is an argument to go second against that deck. But I think it's a lot more important to play your Gedatsu on that turn, on your 5-down turn, to try to remove the Zoro. I really like that curve, because that Zoro will never have the stage effect on it, because it just makes no sense for Green-Purple Luffy to leader effect 2-down minus and use that stage that turn. And then you have a constant 6k body that they have to swing into. Yeah. Also added an extra 0 cost from the previous list, just purely because you need more consistency. This is one of the matchups that you kind of do need to ditch your hand early to heal sometimes. Yeah, still on 2 Pudding, because I think you do need Pudding. This is actually not bad playing this on curve. On your 4, if you go second, 4-down turn, just swing. They'll take it because they're Green-Purple, and then you just Pudding them. They see I think 3 less cards in general, plus as a fresh mulligan, so they might not be able to play Sanji Pudding. And then next turn, if they draw into it on their 5, they play Sanji Pudding, leader effect. Next turn you can have a red rock for that deck, which is important to note. Red rock is not the most important commodity in this matchup, as their biggest thing is the 6 cost. If you can just red rock their initial Sanji Pudding going second, the game pretty much ends. Which Sable is basically extra copies of red rock. With it, this has an insane trigger as well. They're not going to be playing around Sable's trigger, you know. If you Perona stack this in the life, you're flying. And I'll show the OP11 list. This is very different. One of the key things is that an extra Sanji, you need to play Sanji on curve to beat Snake Man. So we've also added this new OP11 Carrot. 3-3 split between Carrot and Perona, because you can play Carrot early, and then you can play Perona the turn before you play Sanji, right? This just gives you an extra counter in it. It's Perona with extra utility, which is always nice. There's Nami as well, You can stack the top of your deck for Sanji. But the card and Zeus is like, it's an extra copy of Nami and it's a 2K. This card's insane. I think this is the most 2Ks we are playing in Queen ever. Usually we're on like 6 or 7. Now there's 8. Plus it's a 0 cost, an extra 0 cost. There's more bricks in this, but it's kind of compensated by the extra counter you get from Kara, the extra 0 cost, and just some less events. Also less trigger blockers, just because we're kind of tight on space. Also need to remember, you still need to beat green, purple, and like Bell Betty and stuff. This Monkey D. Luffy is really insane. It gives you like an actual answer to Bello Betty going second. So you can, like, you want to go second against that deck. 4 Dawn, you're not really doing anything except for play out a blocker, right? 6 Dawn, your play is either like Nami. We're not playing Kadats anymore because it's just horrendous into blue purple. So it's like play Nami or like play a Red Rock. Neither are amazing. And then 8 Dawn, this is an amazing play. Just on 8. This can get bricks out of your hand. It gives you a rested Dawn for your leader, so you can heal on 8 if need be. Yeah, this is like a custom card for Queen. The reason we're not playing more is mainly because it is a kind of small. 8/8 is kind of small to try to contest Snake Man. But the difference between this and Katakuri is that Katakuri plays a lot better in the Snake Man than the Secret Rare Luffy. This can remove the big 8 cost Katakuri blocker. This cannot. And this is the reason that like Snake Man is not really playing this card in the mirror, just because it's bad in the mirror, right? Also, still back to 3 Yamato as well. This is literally just a heal. It's nothing special. Only good against Bello Betty, which is one of your kind of worst matchups. But yeah, this is. I'm quite excited to play this for OP11. Yeah, this is the list, and I'm gonna go talk about some matchups and cut. Right. So this is probably what you're all here to see. I've had a lot of requests for me to do something like this, and yeah, well, let's just get it started. I'm gonna go over. We're going to do the red leaders, the green leaders, and just go through it by color. You might see a trend come color and stuff, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So the red leaders, the most prominent one is probably Shanks at the moment. I think Shanks is very much a 50-50. For like a big regionals, they're not going to know what you're playing. Half the strength of this deck is just because it is so strong, like having more knowledge than your opponent. For this matchup specifically, I'm going to talk a lot about this. You need to see Peronis and Duffy's early. If you see like a Sanji that can pull something out, you don't care. The only thing you care about playing against Shanks is the number of Katakuris you draw and the number of Red Rocks you draw. How you lose this matchup is basically, you run out of Red Rocks. Very similar to what NL does in the past. But with Queen, you have a lot more obnoxious blockers, and you can Red Rock and heal in the same turn, right? On your 10 Dawn turn, if you already have a big body established, you can Red Rock, Duffy blocker, heal. Exactly 10 Dawn. The annoying part about Shanks, which not a lot of people are on, is if they play multiple of that pop Shanks. I usually I don't mind going first or second, but going second, I need to see a Sanji. Well, going first and second, I both need to see a Sanji. Basically, I cannot really answer that Ben Beckman unless it's specifically Katakuri on my 8 Dawn turn, which is kind of one of the reasons I didn't really like going second. But on your first 10 Dawn turn, you have to play. This is under the scenario you didn't play a Katakuri on your 8 Dawn turn. You need to play Sanji into Katakuri on that turn. The reason being, if they play a Pop Shanks and if you didn't have a Sanji, you don't have a big body on field now, right? And the problem with that is that next turn you cannot Red Rock and heal in the same turn. And then if they just keep chaining Shanks or like Rogers, you're in a very bad spot. Which is why I think you need to see a lot of your pieces, but like if you see your pieces, you should not lose to this deck, right? If 2 10 drops stick on the field for your opponent, you usually just lose the game. Whitebeard, this matchup is pretty free. Very much like how Enel played in the Whitebeard. You just swing 6s at them, you take their hand. Also, you're Enel that plays Pudding. And this deck usually plays 1 body a turn, and you can remove 1 body a turn pretty easily. And you can heal while doing that, right? So on my 10 down turn, I could category and heal. Like, how insane is that? Zoro's pretty free. It's closer to 50-50, but I think it's definitely queen favored by quite a big margin, especially if you're on the Aramaki build. That build just destroys Zoro. Because they don't play big bodies, and you play like so much grab blades, Gadatsus, Namis, plus you heal every turn. Yamato's also pretty, like, it messes up the deck, right? You just starve them. You just full starve them. Don't need to care. The only way you lose to Zoro is, again, stick a 10 drop on field. Same with Whitebeard. You know, sometimes you just don't draw a Red Rock and they draw their like one-off Goldie Roger, and you just have to look at it. Which is, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But you play like, how many searchers are you playing? So 4 in the OP10 list is what? 4 Duffy, 3 Perona, 1 ulti. So if you stack your deck right, if you know what you're looking for, you should find one. Bellow Bay is the last red deck. This deck is horrendous. Mainly because we're only playing 7 2Ks in the deck. Come OP11 is probably like here or closer to here. But for now, this is not really a deck that's like people are playing at the moment. So we're not really teched against it. So this is one of the worst matchups for sure. Smoker is definitely here as well. You're gonna see a trend with a lot of these like green decks. This deck does not like green at all. Green is like, actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and put all these here. This is the EP carrot we're gonna talk about. Why do these leaders just mess up queen? One card, Hody Jones. They usually, because you have such a small hand, and you actually don't have a way to remove that 8 cost kid. Bonnie is probably like really the worst one out of these for you. But the cherry on top, these guys only play 1 guy a turn. Carrot's probably not so much because they don't play that 5 cost smoker, and they have like they play less high end. Smoker can play 8 cost kid. You don't like this deck does not like 8 cost kid, and like both of these they're all on Hody Jones, which if you have 2 cards in hand, like sitting on like 2 blockers and 1 life, 1 Hody, unless that last life is like 0 cost in a base, you're picked. Kara is probably out of these 3, the one you'd rather play into. But if they see the stage, you can't really trade into it very well, and this deck is very hard to starve. Uta as well. Hody. This deck can just go so wide. 7 plus 4 plus 3 with the film Luffy it's just way too much. Arlong. I think Arlong is pretty much queen favored. The only thing you need to watch out for is that 4 cost Arlong from OP6, OP7. It's the one that says on play. It's the 4/6 no counter on play. If your opponent's leader is rested, discard a card. Your opponent's leader cannot attack next turn. You just need to kind of remember to not completely play into that card, so that you can't heal. If they play like Hawkins or Kikunojo, Hawkins you can kind of just leave on field eventually. You can kill when you're at 0, or you can bottom deck it with a Gravity Blade or bounce it back. At some point, Kikunojo you can just get that Tsunami pop it. You don't really care about them gaining life. You just full start with this deck, and this deck will crumble in EB. Lim, I think Lim is pretty queen favored, especially this new list with like the 6-cost Sakazuki, rather than like the one with the Zoro and Kaido and Linen. This is like, if you get go in a tournament and hit 10 limbs, you just hit 10 limbs. It's really the good one. The GP. I don't actually think this matchup is completely terrible. You have like a lot of answers for this. It is really hard if they see stage on curve, right? But that's the thing with a lot of these. This deck against a lot of leaders that removes things by cost. It's just really hard. But we can add Sables into our deck. You know, if we really want to target this, you can even start playing Burnblade to kill that Sanji and Pudding. But if we resolve that on curve, this deck is free. Also, this is a very hard deck to pilot, so I think like Queen actually does at a locals level anyway. I would say this is here. But for bigger tournaments, I think it's like only slightly 45-55. I think this leader does okay. Red Purple Luffy. This deck plays one thing a turn. That's 7 cost. This deck, if you see your red rocks, you win the game basically. Pluffy. The way Pluffy is built now is with the Luffy Taro build. The only way you win this is that like if you play Pudding on the 4-cost Pudding on your 5 down turn, and they don't draw into Luffy Taro, or Luffy Taro no effect is also fine. Yeah, you'll absolutely steamroll this deck. But if they do play Luffy Taro on that turn, you lose. Yeah, it's unfortunate how this is, but that's just Pluffy against a lot of these yellow control decks. They just play out such big numbers. Come EB, it's probably here because we're playing Disables. But right now, because we're just not really tagged for this in OP10, I would say it's here. And Snake Man. I think Snake Man's actually 50-50. Slightly unfavored. But if you go second in this matchup, you can Sanji and Pudding the turn after they Sanji and Pudding. Sorry. Let me restart. If you go first into this matchup, you can play your 9-cost Sanji the turn after they play theirs. Because that deck is just a lot slower going second, and it just doesn't feel as good. If you can, and if they're going second and they don't see Sanji in their very first turn, you're probably winning that game. You just play Sanji category to remove their category, and the game pretty much ends there. Category is very strong into this leader specifically, and Queen being able to play red rocks. You can control the board very easily once you establish 2 big bodies. Reiju. I'll put Reiju here. OP11 Reiju is probably here. The way Reiju is built now with the Porsches, the deck is just too aggressive for us to deal with. The aggression is a lot different than that of like Zoro and Whitebeard, where they want to play like one guy a turn or like small guys and they just slowly whittle you down because you don't care, right? With Queen, because you're healing one every turn and you want to lose your hand size, it's not that bad. But the thing with Reiju is that like they swing such big numbers at you, and that judge turn hurts so much. Duffy, this deck is so free. I don't need to talk anything about this deck. This deck's just so free for this. Nami's actually not as bad as like you would think. You can kind of just starve them, play out a bunch of big guys, and then like once you have 4 big guys on field, play out your Pudding, and then swing out your board. Yeah, nothing really to be said about Nami. Nami just struggles against blue decks in general. Even though your deck is still, if you see Pudding, you can definitely beat Nami. A lot easier than NL. And I think like NL into Nami is like 35, 65 back in the day. A lot better now. But yeah, Queen is maybe like, it's probably 50-50. Buggy. This leader is hard. If they're not on the 10-cost Kaido build, it's here. If they're on the 10-cost Kaido build, it's here. The biggest problem with this leader, just in general, is that like you run out of cards, right? And against aggro, like decks like Shanks that play a lot of big guys, you just get rushed on. Because we're a slower deck and we can't really swing out and kill them fast, we want to be starving this deck. But if they play a 10 cost Kaido, it's really hard to remove. Also, like they're basically playing Luffy Taro on that turn as well, with the Crocodile, and it's impossible to remove that body on your 6th on turn, unless it's a Red Rock or Sable specifically. Yeah, you cannot remove 2 bodies turn against this deck early, which just really hurts. Usopp is like here. Eventually, they just run out of gas and they can't really clear your big bodies. But the 7 cost Rebecca, if they drop it back to back to back, it's just really hard because just like they're spinning out 3 bodies, and the mini bodies that swing 5 at you every turn is just really obnoxious. And yeah, it's probably here. They can get lethal on you from King Kong Gone out of nowhere because they can just pop blockers and just generally the Lucci problem. Blackbeard. Blackbeard is here. If they don't see stage, I think this matchup is very doable. If they see stage, it's a little hard. If they see stage and I have no Braham, I can't starve them. Or else like I'd Red Rock something and they just eventually float back up. And like I'm just running in a circle doing nothing. Yeah, I need to see Braham. Also, like, if they play 1 stage, turn 1, they go -1 in card advantage. If I bottom deck, rest the Burgess, swing in the Burgess, they lose the Burgess, they lose the stage. And if they're playing on another stage, then good on them, you know. They're running out of cards fast. Then I just don't swing. They'll eventually just run the cards. Also, the thing with Blackbeard is that if you leader effect me, I'll use my events to remove your board. If you don't leader effect me, I'll use Katakuri, I'll use Mihawk, and Yamato remove your board. You know? So yeah, I think Blackbeard is actually... This matchup's not bad. Like, people think this is a bad matchup for Queen, but it's not. Obviously, you can have the scenario where you have, like, 5 cards in hand, and they're all bricks, and they all do nothing with no one plays. Just have 5 big guys and no way to get them out of your hand. It happens. But yeah. Actually, I'm going to put Blackbeard here. Lucci is bad. The turn they play 9 cost, just black in general, they play like a 9 cost Kaido, and like you lose the big guy on field, and then because you're already low on hand size, they're like, oh, you trash one from hand as well, and it just hurts. Some like if they're like not as good, they could like miss the removal, or if you play a 9+9, sometimes you can beat this deck. I actually think you can probably full starve this deck at the moment, which is kind of crazy to say, but they don't have like they can't Morio Loopy anymore, which is like the biggest thing. If they want to set up their bottom deck, they have to play like Mancherry into Lucci, and sometimes they just don't have enough reduction and they can't pop anything that turn. And the final 3 leaders we're talking about are Yellow Mirrors. Kid, 50-50. The biggest trick with this deck, playing as Kid, is that you need to realize that the 1 cost beige can take a life without putting anything back. So this deck will always win the Katakuri war if they have a Katakuri. So for example, the biggest thing with this deck is that I cannot remove anything that easily. If I Katakuri their Katakuri, and they pick it back up, and they Katakuri me with it, I'm in such a bad spot because I don't want that Katakuri in my life. It's adding an extra card in my 4 cards for no reason, and that card, like, it's not a trigger, right? It's dead. It doesn't have counter. A good Kid player can just Katakuri loop you if they see. They only need to see 1 copy to win this matchup. But if they're not on Katakuri, I think this matchup is pretty free. NL in EB, if we're talking EB, probably here, mainly because we have access to like the 4 cost pudding. Also, like if you can Sanji into Yamato, that deck is not clearing that. Ain't no way. Also, like we have Red Rocks, they don't. But in general, because of the 10 cost NL, If this was OP10, I would have put it here. But the way it's built right now, because that deck's not starving anymore, but there's also no reason for us to starve it now anymore. Eventually we can just trade out red rocks, and if I resolve like a Sanji on curve, this deck just folds. Katakuri is hard. That 10 cost big mom hurts so much because you want to be stacking stuff into your life, and like they just trash it. And if you run out of red rocks, you usually just lose. You know. I think that's it for all the leaders I kind of want to talk about. The mirror. I've actually never played a Queen Mirror, I'll be honest. But decks like Rosinante is like popping up. This deck should be free. But nothing. A Red Green Odin. People are like really hyped. Where's that leader? Here. People are really hyped about this leader. I don't know. I don't think it's that good. But obviously there's still stuff like Nami that like I've not covered in this video, meaning because I've not had too much testing against it. So I just don't really want to talk about those matchups. Also, those leaders aren't really seeing play at the moment. Yeah, but if I'm off the top of my head, I'm just thinking the way Nami plays, and it's like I feel like that leader just completely dunks on Queen. But I actually think Queen has a better matchup spread into the OP11 meta than Nami does, which is crazy. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching again. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Or if you have like another leader you want me to cover, it has to be an interesting leader though. Let me know. But yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.